Hello and welcome to the Aaron Roussos podcast. Today I just wanted to do a little episode on, different things that are out there in the, health and well-being space. And while I don't, how do I explain this? I don't work in the health and well-being space. I've pretty much, I've healed myself and been able to help hundreds of people that have had 3 days to 3 months diagnosis with very bad, mainly cancers, but also some rare conditions that no one was able to help. So I only had people, I wasn't advertised, didn't have a business or anything like that. It was a word of mouth and people recommended. I had a few restaurants, and used to work front of house and get talking, and then so people used to fly all over to me, and so I guess in a nutshell, the thing that was a couple of things that enabled me to heal myself and then help these people. It was nothing that I'm not a witch doctor or anything. It was all natural. But what I did was, obviously, I went to my doctor and I said, there's a state I've heard about called homeostasis, where everything's working at optimum, the body is at, peak. Could I get, these diseases when I was in that state? And he said, no, it's impossible. And so I sort of reverse engineered myself and thought, I'll get myself to that state and see what my body does with my disease. It wasn't that easy. There's a lot of different aspects to it. And another saying I had was, if I always do what I've always done, I'll always get what I've always got. And so, I created a bit of a system for change, and eventually got this 14-day protocol and got my body to a state which no one on earth, I can guarantee, has ever felt. This state of home, and basically my body did balance and heal itself. So it's like a system restore, a biology reset, whatever you want to call it, really. And I guess the reason why I'm talking about, I've seen that Gary Brecker guy, top guy, don't have any problems with him. He had a business that Grant Cardone guy bought into it, and basically they test you, they give you a methylation test, they test your body, and they work out what minerals and sort of things you're deficient in, and then they make up a formula just for you based on those deficiencies. And I guess from everything I learned from my experience was that if you restore the system, which I did, and I've got some other podcasts which get into this in deeper detail, a deeper dive, I guess, whether it be weight loss, supplements, microplastics, deficiencies, when your body's in this optimum state, it balances everything. It takes care of all those things. You don't need supplements. You don't need to worry about deficiencies. You don't even need to worry about toxins and unnatural stuff. You don't need to, if you have too much fat, it'll just get rid of it. It does not hang on to anything that it is that it doesn't need. The body is part of an intelligent system. And it all makes sense. We know that we heal. And I guess the other big thing that really changed my whole ability to heal myself of an incurable disease naturally and work with a natural system, which was studying the Human Genome Project, which is all about our DNA. Now, our DNA, it's widely known that most of the greatest contributors, which are all mainly professors from different universities all around the world and faculties and all sorts of places, who have been contributing to the Human Genome Project about our DNA. They only know what 3.5% does, but they make some other claims which you wouldn't know if you only knew that 3.5% does. But that's not the fact. It's quite clear that, and you can ask anyone this, that through that project they very clearly state that our DNA's efficacy is very, very low. And so I've gone on another whole study thing about the efficacy of DNA and looked at all different types of DNA throughout the whole universe and what DNA does, and we have, how our bodies work and how our DNA works, and stem cell makes the protein encoded. So it's a production. It's a little bit like a computer. There's codes and all sorts of stuff. And so if efficacy is low, I guess, something that would be fascinating for you, but it should spark some form of remembrance. We all have DNA and we're all part of something which is far greater, which means there's something in there that we would remember. If you understand about reincarnation and things like that. And so there's something in our DNA that's, I guess the question, what would happen if our DNA was at 100%, okay? And I guess there's certain things happening at the moment with numerology physics, quantum physics, which is increasing our DNA efficacy. And we'll continue to do that as consciousness rises and as we evolve. So back to the question, what would the person's DNA do at 100%? Well, at 100%, if you cut your arm off, it would grow back. If you, at the moment, if you're you had an accident and your spinal cord was severed, at the moment, chemicals rush there to stop it from fusing, from growing back together. It's actually the opposite of what we want to happen. So a lot of the things that happen in higher DNA efficacy are things that make sense, right? Starfish, axolotls, there's a few different animals that have the same DNA all throughout the earth, that if you cut its arm off or whatever it has, it grows back. So we know we've got proof of these possibilities, and I guess some of the ways that you can increase your DNA efficacy. The best way to increase your your DNA efficacy, is something you do every day, 3 times a day, and that's eat food. But then you've got to work with a natural human being, right? So what we have is a natural vessel, so why would you put anything unnatural into it? And so we absolutely bombard our system with chemicals and just so many things. Some things like, heavy metals we eat, and they're in minerals, they're in water, they're in our system. But unhealthy levels are where it starts to erode the human interface or have a negative effect on our natural system. So all I did was naturally align myself. And when I was doing the system, some of the weight loss secrets that I've shared before, and I'm doing a bit of a program at the moment, is a little bit like firing the C1 receptor. We've got 2 receptors and an endocannabinoid system, which CBD, which is big. It's just been changed in America from a class 3 to a class 1 to a class 3, and in Australia it went from a class 1 to a class 4. These classifications have been there for 70 or 80 years, I think. 40s, 50s, so yeah. And basically what that means is they go from being highly addictive and no medical benefit is a class 1. And class 3 and 4 in Australia and America is they now have medical benefits and they're not addictive, or not highly addictive, which I've got extensive experience in this field as well. Now, what we don't know a lot about is that you right now listening to this are making CBD right now in your bone marrow. We have 2 types. We have GA2 or 2AG, depending on which medical journals you read. And we have andamide, which is the bliss molecule that's released when you're breastfeeding as well. They're both CBDs that we make naturally in our bone marrow, in our own systems. Right now, the Western diet is so deficient of the things that help us make and produce the healthy levels of CBD that you'll probably find that 85% of the developed world is deficient of CBD. That's why an external source of CBD, which we get from the cannabis plant, which we can isolate and separate the psychoactive THC part, and we can use that as a supplement. If we put it in coconut oil and administer it under the tongue, we have some veins in the tongue. Coconut oil is a carrier oil which goes to your brain, and the CBD can stop epilepsy, fits, seizures with epilepsy instantly. It's the quickest way, but it's basically just it's firing this C1 receptor. The C1 receptor, it gets things moving in the body, and the brain is the regulation of everything, all the processes that go on in our body. And it doesn't matter whether it's pain, mood, hydration, hunger, all the systems that happen. Everything is from this control center, which is in your brain. So when the C1 receptor is fired, it gets all those things moving, and when you naturally align the rest of the body and get all the negative, naturally aligning with the natural system, right? Working out what you think of, which is obviously no chemicals and no bad stuff, no processed, no high sugars, no. And what happens is you get into this amazing high state of homeostasis. Everything works better. When everything works better like that, there is no need for any supplement service, for any tests, for any packages, for the whole supplement industry, the whole deficiencies in iron and all those different things. You've got to remember that all of these things were created to make money, for starters, but also they were created because your body that has, and I'm just talking about the physical here. I haven't got into the mental side of things, and I haven't got into the spiritual, the energetic side of things either. Consciousness through the One Project, look that up if you want to. There's a whole lot of really well-known, globally accredited scientists and professors that have measured consciousness, so we know that it's energy. So I'm just talking about this physical side of our beings. We've got that much. We've got low immune systems. They're shot. Anything can run through it. We've got low efficacy in the DNA. So things aren't working as they're supposed to be. Everything's pretty multidimensional when it comes to human beings, even though you're only dealing with the physical when you go to the doctor. And so all these things are lowered. We've oscillated. Our bodies are a little bit like a mobile, all beautiful. And then as things go wrong, we clamp down here, and the mobile sort of oscillates to a new lower version of this homeostasis when everything's in optimum. And basically, as a collective and on the earth, in the developed world, we have this system. All our bodies are dysfunctional, and we have classed that as normal. And so that's what we're treating. We're treating a lowered state of what is possible for us. This isn't, this isn't my opinion. This is factual, based on the only person out of 8 billion people on the planet who has healed himself and hundreds of others of incurable diseases, who has proof of the spiritual side, how it all works through practical applications, grounded, that can be tested by anyone. You don't have to be a spiritual person. You don't have to be a religious person. You don't have to know all these. There's still practical ways that you can test all these things to know. It's basically, the protocol for chronic anxiety is basically a do's and don'ts list. And you get your body into that state, and it already knows how to heal itself, right? We cut ourselves, it heals. We break a bone, it heals. We get a bruise, it heals. Everything is already geared towards healing. The body already is designed to do that. I'm just saying, to hidden in plain sight is the fact that your body is a healing machine. It has self-diagnosis built in, and it has healing built in, and that healing goes really all the way. There's still a lot of diseases that it probably, it's going to take a long time before it can do all these other ones, like mutated genes and cystic fibrosis and all that sort of stuff. But as far as autoimmunes, cancers, anxiety disorder, chronic anxiety, all of that stuff is really, really easy for the body to heal. Like, I'm bored of it. That must sound really crazy to someone like you. I am really bored and really sick of cancers. I just don't have the resources to move on to mutated genes. And, now I'm talking about innate intelligence and other ways to heal other things, because I've sort of cracked the code with the first part of moving on. So what I'm saying is, whether it be weight loss, supplements, all these fads, all these things coming in, all these diets, there is no one diet that will ever be suitable for all human beings on planet Earth. Okay, I'll say that again. There will never be one diet that is ever perfect or suitable or, works best for every single person on the planet. So we get online and we go, oh, this guy's got the carnivore diet, oh, this guy's a vegan, oh, this guy's a keto, oh, this guy's that. There is no one of those that will fix and make every single human on the planet feel at ease and everything work perfectly for them. So we have to work out which one is right for us. And a lot of it is based on your ancestral diet. Okay, we have 2 timelines going. We've got a biological timeline and we have a soul timeline going on. So we've got 2 timelines going on. And, it can be done as a trial and error, really, because there's only so many in history ancestral ways and diets of eating and things like that. And trust me, I'm a biohacker, or whatever you call it, a brain hack. I've done, whatever I do, I try on myself. So even this year, 7.5 years after healing myself, I have tried lots of diets myself. Now, the best one for weight loss, I'm doing a program for it now, and I'll give it away free. Like, all the healing that I do is given away free. But the diets that I'm working on to try and generalize it, that works on everybody, is a brain diet, and it fires that C1 receptor. We're talking about omega-3, 9, 6, fatty acids, triglycerides, CBD, an isolate CBD, and basically I've just got to get the balance right. I put myself into hospital once because I was losing so much weight that my body, it didn't matter what I ate, I could eat 10 large Whopper meals in a day and still lose weight, plus eat a few other meals as well. So that's pretty full on. And so, there's a lot of trial and error and experimentation, but what I'm saying is when the body's in the right state, you are not going to need any of these supplement things. And it makes sense, right? You don't want to have to go out and pay money and rely on something that's a business for your well-being and your overall health. We do need to start finding better foods and better sources of nutrition. Okay, if someone doesn't want to do the high sugar processed fast food chains, all the rest of it, high sugar drinks and all the rest of it, they want to get off that, right? Then they go to find some beautiful organic meat and they go, oh, I'm going to balance that. I'm only going to have 20% meat. I'm going to flavor my fucking food with meat rather than have 60% meat and a little bit of veg or potato with that. So they're going to eat in the right components, the right things. Then they're going to get their fruit and veg. And as I've been reporting this year in a big way, the fruit and veg is deficient in the nutrients that it delivers to you. It's picked way too early, before sugars have been able to form in fruits, which then cause a whole lot of problems down the track. Especially oranges do not, well, most of the fruit. I used to grow, my grandfather grew sultanas and table fruit and things in Mildura for 50 years. And with our sultanas as well, the sugars that were forming, they stopped forming in certain fruits when you pick them. And I've just been on this, especially with the fruit this year all over Australia, and I've just found that it's really bad. The fruit that you're getting is really, really bad. The difference compared to eating organically, properly ripened and developed foods, just with the fruit and vegetables, is about 5 to 6 point scale difference in the ability and what it delivers for the human body. So basically, we're going to get to a stage soon where it doesn't matter what you eat, you're better off going to McDonald's, because the fruit and vegetables are not giving you, are not being grown properly, and giving you what you need. So it's all going to be really about using the easiest way to get to where you want to go. And why would you, in this world, why would you want to go and have to go on a diet and do excruciating exercise and put your body through that, when everything natural is aligning? Okay, jumping into a plunge pool is stressful. It won't align you and give you a longer life. It will shorten your life. Anything that's stressful, impactful, and unhealthy for a natural system is part of the negative inputs, and it will deteriorate your life. And anything that is naturally aligned and done softly, like walking, okay? Walking is the best form of low impact exercise, outdoor. You get chemical changes within biology as well from being outside in nature. And so the high stress stuff, yoga, amazing, right? Across all three planes. So if it's just a different way of doing stuff, and it's a smarter way of doing stuff, and it makes sense, and it will extend your life. Okay, stress will It's proven. Okay, you don't have to. I know none of you have got time to go and read all these studies and look at all this new and emerging science and things, but some of it's been out there for a long time. And this is the problem. We're so trusting, and then we're like, oh, how come I've got this, or how come I'm like this, or how come I've got to take this medication for large periods of time. So it's really about your system. Okay, if you restore the system, which is natural and it's easy and it's sustainable, you don't have to make huge changes to your life. You got to remember, with us, it's what we do all the time that counts, not what we do some of the time. I would never, especially after the life I've had and all the terrible things I've done to myself, I know that we've been marketed to, we've been addicted to, and we get, there are some things that are not so good for us, but we don't care. We go and do them anyway. But when we do those things all the time, that's when we get some problems. A lot of, older people, they unfortunately don't have the ability that the rest of us have. This is really, I'm not trying to be terrible to old people, but it's a fact that after a certain age, and especially in certain generations of people in different cultures and things, after a certain age, pretty much 80-90% is autopilot. You're going through the motions every day, every week, every month, every year, and not a lot changes. Whereas if you want to talk about improvements, or if you want to improve anything in your life, there is some form of change attached to it. We're very habitual creatures. We get into these little comfort zones. Look at most parents and young parents. I mean, when their children are young, that put that fat on, that dad bod, and I went through it all as well. Got into that little comfortable stage. I've got to bring up kids. I've got to get into a routine. I've got to pay the mortgage, pay the car payments, and so this level of change that's required to get all these amazing things, we just don't have it. We're just basically happy in that comfortable rut, or life isn't that great anyway, so we all find our little comfortable rut and we stick to it, and we know it's not great for us, but we still that's the known, because when things are unknown, that's when fear comes in. And so we also try and control things too much that we don't know about, instead of surrendering and going with the flow, and just seeing what could be for us. I mean, I'm talking about the future here, and you're talking, and sorry, I'm talking as well, and I'm someone who has been an agent of change their whole life. Okay, I've had probably more jobs than anyone on the planet, moved around, lived in 5 states this year alone. That would be traumatic to most people. When you move house, I remember when I was younger and stuff, I used to move house and stuff, and it'd be so traumatic. Now that's something that I guess it's not that I fully embrace it and enjoy it, but I know that it gets me no personal growth. Okay, if I can just give you a small example of that, I've just been living on the Esplanade, okay, up on Burleigh Heads on the Gold Coast. Now they have an amazing beach. I'm going to the beach in the morning. I'm cooking smashed avocado, making pink pickled onions, toasted sesame seeds, herb focaccia, on the beach, having beautiful breakfast, brewing my coffee, walking, exercise, water sports, beautiful lunches, just really absolutely loving it. It's like 30 degrees every day. You don't get much dipping. It's not that cold, even through winter. And so I'm there for 6 months, okay? And I'm getting into that comfortable sort of routine, and more so than I've had in a long time. And I know that I've got to finish off a couple of projects. It's been a real builder year where I've sort of taken myself offline. Not offline, but, you know, I've taken myself away from life and taken a year off and just built the distance model for the healing protocol. So, I healed myself 7.5 years ago. This year in August, on the 7th-year anniversary, was the first time that I was able to put a distance model on the website that someone who has chronic anxiety, ADHD, it really is a few other things as well, but they can go to that, and I've tested it on a few people. They can go to it and do the program themselves and heal themselves of an incurable disease, whereas in the past, for the past 7 years, I've had to move in with them, go shopping with them, get the food, run through the program, and do it with them. Pretty much move in and live with them for at least 15, 16 days, with about a week of preparing them, getting their head around it, and motivating them and stuff as well. So I could only help about a dozen people a year, and that's only if they came to me, or more than a dozen people would come to me every year. But probably the attrition rate of people that would actually do it would be 25%, because even though it was quite easy, and I was doing the cooking, and which is the hardest part or the most complicated part of it, the fact that they had to put down things that were woven into their daily lives that they were addicted to, being mainly mobile phones, smoking cigarettes, recreational drugs, alcohol, because they couldn't put them. So they came to me saying, I can't live another day with this disease. I tell them what's involved, and they say, oh, we can't do that. And when you're sick, you're not thinking straight anyway, so they would opt out of putting those things down for 14 days rather than healing themselves. I was in the same boat. I was absolutely fucking terrified, mate, to give up weed, cigarettes, alcohol, Valium. I kept taking my medication, okay? This is a complementary natural thing. So it's all natural and it's complementary, meaning it's done side by side, so you don't stop any medical treatment at all. I thought, I've got to develop something that, is tangible, and it was just the perfect scenario, if you wanted to take down all the barriers. And so that's where CBD came into it as well, because the CBD fires that receptor, and I found out first about CBD back in 2017 with one guy that had saved his life from alcoholism, and another who was addicted to heroin for quite some time. Now, that gave me a lot of confidence to stop doing all the things that I was doing. You know what I mean? I'm freaking out going, I'm going to give up all of those things in one day. Plus I smoked cigarettes, I smoked weed, I drank, and I'm going to give them all up tomorrow. Petrified me. So I got the CBD, learnt about it, and went, all right, this is going to be the thing that's going to offset that. Worst case scenario, I'm going to be up for 3 days. You know what I mean? What happens is when your body, gets to high levels of these recreational drugs, and it's dependent on it, or cigarettes, and you can't give it up, as soon as you stop, your heart starts pumping harder, looking for it. And cortisol, when you get angry, comes out, and it's all chemical, but it's fucking excruciating. And And so the pain from that would have been, if I didn't do it, the only reason why I didn't do it as well. So I don't really blame these people. I know that everyone's on their own journey. I know they have to get to a point where they want to go, I'll do anything. I'll try, and you start expanding your thing. The reason why I got this was I was open to absolutely everything and closed to nothing. No matter how stupid it was, I looked at all sorts of things, ayahuasca, tripping on mushrooms, psychedelics. I looked at, you know what I mean? And I tried everything as well, as far as, psychologists and therapies and CBT and exposure therapy, and, tried different drugs. So I had, tried what I thought was everything, no matter how crazy it was, or where it was, or how it was, or different countries and cultures and all sorts of stuff. And so I can fully understand why only 25% of the people would then do this. And also I didn't have it online then, so it was just basically my words. Okay. I've had better results with people going to the website, and I just recommend to them to read absolutely everything. Then basically, when you're ready, pick a date, start planning towards that date. And so they've got a lot more knowledge, and they're building themselves up, they're working themselves into it. They understand, they know someone's gone before them. I was going blindly, and to be honest, I didn't know what was going to happen. After the first day, I was sitting there on the couch, and I was going, wow, the CBD's good. It's firing that receptor, and I don't feel like my heart wasn't pumping looking for it and stuff. And it also aided with sleep. And so second day, it was all right. Third day, I was getting this surge of energy, and I was like, wow, something's happening here. By day 8, I took my medicine and I threw it up. My body rejected it. So, so it was a bit of a journey, and I understand why it was a small attrition rate. So the first time it's been online this year. So it's only still been online for 3 months? 4 months. So it's all quite relatively new. But the whole thing really tells us a lot about who we are as a human being, how our systems work, how we can problem solve other things in the future. It is really the most amazing discovery that we've ever had on the planet. It really is, and it gives us proof, because the way I went through the system, it proves that it works. So it's fantastic. So I guess when it comes to those other things that aren't rare conditions, or people that have got diagnosis of 3 days to 3 months, it should be easy, right? It should be, well, not shouldn't be, but it is easier. But then again, you would have to change your whole mindset about how you're dependent on pills and drugs, and turn it into, how do I restore a system? And that's great that it's complementary. It's always been complementary. When I mean complementary, I mean done side by side with traditional medicine. And the way that I sort of went with that, or the way that sort of got adopted, was I read about Dr. Mahmoud in Israel, who was the first professor to split the THC from the CBD in the cannabis plant. He's sort of the godfather of THC medicine and cannabis medicine and stuff, from Israel. And he's been around forever. This is 50 years ago now, maybe. And so he came up with this thing called the triple threat for cancer patients, and he was getting 98% success. And I'm like, oh, fuck, why doesn't the world know this shit, right? And it's CBD, THC, and traditional medicine with some lifestyle hacks. And I'm like, 98% of all cancer cases, all stages, all cancers. And I was like, why doesn't anyone know this? And I was like, and I was looking at it and I'm going, well, you don't even like, you know what I mean, with, there wasn't even any, like, I've had to adapt some things because I'm dealing with the worst of the worst, right? Could you imagine, you know, so the system restore works, you know, across the board. It's not, you don't need to specifically deal with, you know, one type for this cancer and one for that, which is the problem. Well, the narrative of the cancer, you know, medical people say, oh, there's so many different types and they're all different. No. Yeah, but when you restore the system, that doesn't apply. But when I've got the rarest of the rarest cases, that, you know, these people are only coming to me because the medical world had tried everything. They started getting any results. They weren't, you know, things were deteriorating, and it starts getting into the scary zone, right? And these people are like clutching on, and then I'm going, oh yeah, it's all natural. And they go, yeah, that, as if that'd work. And look, I'll be honest, there's been people that have gone as if that would work, and it has to be done in its entirety to make the biological changes and the chemical changes within your system. And so some of them have gone, oh, that wouldn't work, and they're no longer with us. And that was heartbreaking. That was really part of this whole journey that I wasn't expecting. And then you've got other people who, you know, 3 days out from having the machine turned off, family have snuck in, peg fed him something that I'd made, and, you know, he's still alive today. So we have all these, and then I go on to teach them how to make their own medicine and all that sort of stuff as well. But when I get the worst of the worst, I've had to adapt and do a few things different, but it's still the same protocol, just with some things. And I've learned all these things from different medical trials. So a guy came to me once and he had a tumor really bad in his brain cavity. And they cut it out and it grew back twice as big and was taking over 60% of his brain cavity. And this guy was a trucker. And he'd never had marijuana before. Didn't even know what CBD was. Never had a bloody vegan meal in his lifetime. And just total, it was deteriorating. But he was a really down-to-earth, lovely guy. And I got to sit there with him, getting stoned on marijuana for the first time. But with that one, because it was in the brain, and I knew coconut oil was a carry oil to the brain, and I'd read all these medical trials and journals about incremental dosing with certain things to do with the brain, and especially some more dangerous drugs and chemicals and stuff. So they go 1 mil, 2 mil the next day, 0.4, and the incremental goes up, and they get to a certain point and then they come back down, and so I applied that to him with a THC, CBD, and some other triglycerides, coconut oils, fatty acids, and just basically did the incremental dosing with the new food and foodicin, and made him do some other things like his picture, all the things, the doom and gloom, the fear, turn off the news, watch comedy things, Eddie Murphy, you know, all the old school comedy specials, and so we got him, his picture being different. We got him outside, so just a complete out in nature, positive, just changing, the picture that he saw as well as being part of it. And got him onto all his chemicals, washing his clothes in, toothpaste chain, everything. And it made such impacts on his whole system altogether, all the changes together, because we're talking about all planes, all thingos, and it bloody worked. And it was something that, I was there meditating for 4 hours over his medicine. Is there anything I've forgotten? Have I gone through everything? Where, what have I said? What have I done? I've asked and so, you become extremely invested, but also mathematically I knew we were making so much more change, okay? Cancer patients normally like him, they eat the same thing, they watch the same shit, they don't change. All they do is they go and get their chemo, they go to the doctor and get these drugs, they get that chemotherapy. And so the percentage of change versus what they've been doing, and remember that saying I said before, if you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you've always got. So I'm basically infiltrating that system and going, well, sorry, 20% change in this is not going to cut it. We're going to flip the whole script and we're going to change everything. And I tried to put a number on it and go, we've got to change 26 things. For some reason, I just stuck with that number and went on with it, and it worked every single time. When things, when you're, and all of this also stemmed from me going to my personal doctor and saying, Doc, when I've heard this thing about homeostasis, if my body was naturally in homeostasis and at this stage, could I get cancer? And he goes, no, it's impossible. And I went, hallelujah. That's what we'll do. We're going to get this guy to a state of homeostasis. Cancer cannot. This is another fact which anyone can find out or look up or work it out. Cancer cannot exist in a certain body, in a state, right? It's impossible. And like, you'll probably hear, spiritual gurus and natural gurus going, oh, it's the frequencies, cancer can't survive in this frequency. And you think you've got to, get a frequency thing, or back in the day there was Dr. Rife that had a frequency machine and all the rest of it. And then you've got now ivermectin and febendazole or whatever, saying, when people get online and they go, oh, I've got cancer, and they go, oh yeah, ivermectin. One thing is never going to heal your body of cancer, no matter what sort of cancer, what stage it was or anything. It's never going to be one thing. It's never going to be two things. It's never going to be three things. It's never going to be four things. It's going to be everything. So many things. And all of those things are going to go across your mental, your soul, consciousness, which is energy, and your physical body, right? And how it affects and everything. So it's going to be a huge shift if you want to beat cancer, because that is a mathematically proven thing. It makes sense. It works every time. It's not it's not a hit and miss thing. And so in that year, because I've never really gone out and evangelized or told anybody what I do, what happened was I was working in a pizza bar, and this guy said, oh, that stuff that you did, do you reckon that'd work with, Gino's uncle? He's pretty sick. He's got a really bad diagnosis. And I go, oh, I don't know. Do you want me to have a look at it? And look, back in the day, I had a great network as well of many doctors that are too scared to speak out because they are under a guise of control. And so I actually had doctors, Ministry of Health in Amsterdam. I had a contact there from a girl that I saw many years ago. some research biologists, what do you call them? Microbiologists in Israel. There was Project CBD back in the day, and there was obviously everything that Dr. Mechum did in Israel and all his case studies, and there's thousands of, I reckon I've read 8,000 at least medical studies. So there was a network out there, and if I wasn't sure of something, I could send out an email, and they'd send me back this paper or this study or this has worked or these evidence, and it was really just a case of evidence-based medicine. It wasn't medicine alone, it wasn't nutrition alone, it wasn't natural homeopathic stuff alone. At the end of the day, it was a combination of all of them together. Isn't that amazing, isn't it? Hey? Isn't that the best possible outcome for a human being as far as the medical its health moving forward is a combination of the best of everything. You know what I mean? I had to learn a lot from doctors. I'm not saying they're bad, right? I've never said they're bad. But everyone that's gone before me, that's come out with natural things, and goes, oh, you got to go and do this diet, they make you try and drop the medical or drop that part of it, or, do you know what I mean? They bag doctors and stuff. I'm not doing that. I'm saying they're fantastic. And it's usually people trying to help people, right? Which is even more beautiful. But, the people that have gone before me, have ruined it for me. So a combination of everything gets the chocolates, and all of those people are still alive today, as far as I know. Some of them I've lost contact with. I explained to them everything that I did in the cases of making these medicines, in the cases of making THC. I did it all. I showed them how to do it themselves. There's other things out there at the moment, like RSO oil, which is the black one, which is called Rick Simpson oil. And people, once again, they get a cancer thing, and there's a lady on there with all the syringes going, oh, this is it, da, 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 RSO. Yeah, it's one thing. Okay, and yes, THC is proven to be a tumor inhibitor, and or stops the growth, or starves it of certain things, but it's only still one thing. It's not something that I could hang my hat on and say this will work every single time for every stage and for every cancer, because it's just something that I can't say. My method of using absolutely everything, I can hang my hat and say every cancer, because I've only dealt with the worst of the worst. All the rest of them are easy, right? But the problem is, it's so natural, it's risk-free, and as I say, complementary. It's so, most people look at it and go, oh, surely that wouldn't be it. But the causes of cancer, because you have to work out what causes it first, they're all intertwined with what we do every day, in our habits, in our thoughts, and what's been exposed to us, multidimensional. There's so many causes as well, that I had to offset every single one of those. So I can hang my hat on that. So it's really a new age of system restoring, homeostasis, and realizing that the state that you and me have all been getting around in for generations and generations now, maybe a couple of generations, has been so low. It crosses over to our immune system's being shot, DNA efficacy, and then the amount of unnatural things for a natural system. And that low level of across those three things alone, we've called that normal. That's where we're at. We've called that normal, and that's why we're in the situation we're in now. yes, other things have been marketed to us. Yes, all those things, whether it be big pharma, they're all companies. Companies have to chase higher profits each year and more dollars. And yes, there's greed and corruption, all sorts of things involved, but there is with every business. So sometimes it's not a conspiracy, it's just all we knew at the time. And people, there's never anyone super smart about it. It's usually super evil. And so propaganda can obviously play on things as well. And now we're a bit inundated with so much crap out there. I don't know what is going on. And that's why I take great pleasure in getting offline, because it just hurts my head, especially with the truth that I know. So I hope that helps with some of the things around supplements and maybe some things to try. I get this weight loss thing out there, but I definitely, you don't have to be dying of a cancer or have chronic anxiety to go and do a 14-day protocol that will, really give you a great reset and boost all those things up to give you a level of a human being that not many people on earth get to experience. I liken it to Bradley Cooper in that movie Limitless, where he takes that pill and his cognitive function and just goes alive, and his strength and this and that, everything improves. That's what I liken the feeling to myself when I explain it to other people. But, as I say, you don't have to be in a bad state to go and do that and experience that. And I think that's where we're headed. And if you're in business and you want to make some big money, I would start investing in organics and natural things, because when all of this information comes out over the next 10 years, in 10 years' time, the new millionaires and billionaires in this world will all be invested in natural businesses. So if you are synchronized or listening to this right now and you're pretty cluey, that's the way you can have the best possible, make the most amount of money opportunistically as you possibly can. Thank you very much for listening. My name is Aaron Roussos. You're listening to the Aaron Roussos podcast.